Hey, so if you are running a podcast and you're not quite getting the traction that you want, I see this all the time that people are struggling trying to get new followers and new subscribers and they're trying to grow their audience. And maybe you've tried posting your podcast across all the different platforms, Podbean, maybe you're just doing YouTube, whatever it is. If you're trying to get your stuff out there and you're running up against a wall, I want to explain to you the other side of my business that I do because I think it might actually help you. And I just want to say up front, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want you to be aware that there is a different way that you can go about this, and it works really, really well. So, excuse me. So, I like to look at it like this. When you're trying to get traffic online, you can either do it with a viral mentality or an antiviral mentality, right? Most people think that going viral is a good thing. And for some things, it can be. For some YouTubers, it works great. I'm not here to debate what's better, what's worse, but I can also speak to the virality part of this as just because you go viral doesn't mean that you're getting the people, the eyeballs that you want on your content. So, what does that mean? Well, if you think about it like this, if you're just trying to get a million views, right? And if you have no business behind what your podcast does, then that's great. That might work great, right? Somebody like Mr. Beast, he got millions of subscribers over time because he does these big, extravagant projects, these huge videos, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger each time. But he didn't start out that way. He started out with very small videos and he was kind of like a gamer at the beginning. But if you're running a podcast and you've got some kind of product or business behind it, let's say you do coaching or you run webinars or you're trying to help people do something or teach them about finance or taxes or anything like that, then things shift a little bit because not everybody needs those services. Not everybody's interested in those things. And when you have a niche podcast, it's really important that we're focusing in on the people that we want to watch our stuff, right? Especially if you've got something on the back end or you want to have something on the back end that's earning you money, okay? So when I think about promotion and trying to get things out there, I'm trying to do it with, just make an adjustment there. I'm trying to do it with an antiviral strategy. So what does that mean? Does that mean that I'm going for as little traction as possible? No. But what I'm doing is I'm creating content that only my ideal client would be interested in. Only the people that are interested in promoting their podcasts is what I'm interested in. So for you, if you run a podcast that's about crypto, you might be trying to get people into a course to learn about how to trade on the poly market. Or you might have a video series about doing your taxes for the 2026 year and what's changed and what you need to be aware of. Or maybe you run like a spiritual podcast where you talk about like the zodiac signs and what all that stuff means, and you're doing like one-on-one calls with people. But when you create antiviral content, it really is aimed at those people. So I just wanted to go over that really quick and wanted to talk a little bit more about how this stuff works, okay? So when you're trying to get your word out, right? If you're creating simple graphics, if you're doing simple videos, and you're just kind of chopping up your podcast episodes and promoting it, and you're not getting a ton of traction, then this is for you. Because if you can wrap your head around what I'm saying for this, it can completely change the game for yourself. And you could do this with organic posts, you could do it with paid advertising, which a lot of people do for their podcast. So the idea here is that we're creating something that I like to call power content. And power content is a helpful piece of content aimed directly at my ideal client, my ideal viewer, and it solves one micro problem for them. That's how it's actually helpful, is that we're solving a problem with it. So if you have a comedy podcast, it might be a little tricky trying to figure out what that problem is, but the problem really is that people want to be entertained and they want to laugh, right? They want to see something that's actually funny. But when you have a podcast that's more niche in terms of getting stuff done, taxes, here's the top 5 things that you need to be aware of for the 2026 tax season. Here's how to get your refund faster. Here's 3 ways that, you want to avoid an audit. Whatever it is, that's the kind of power content that I'm talking about. And what I like to do with this is I like to do it with a 3 to 5 minute video. Okay, now this can be a short, it could be a reel on Instagram, it could be a TikTok. It literally does not matter where you put it. Put it on LinkedIn if you want. But the idea is that we're putting together a 3 to 5 minute video that solves that problem for people. And the ulterior motive behind this and the antiviral strategy behind this is that we're really going after watch time. And I want to talk about that for just a minute because I think it's important. Watch time is one of the most important signals that you can give an algorithm. It literally does not matter what platform you're on. And that's why I love this strategy, is because it's not like tied to Podbean or YouTube or whatever. It literally is, if you follow the principles of what I'm teaching, then you'll understand that it works no matter what, and it's future-proof because it just doesn't matter what buttons you press. The majority of these platforms are advertising platforms disguised as social media. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all these things, right? Facebook is every 3 or 4 videos that you scroll through, it's an ad. Same on all of these platforms. They're trying to get you to stay addicted to the platform. They're trying to get you to watch for as long as possible. They want you checking in on the app all the time. That's why this stuff is so addictive. That's also why they make so much money. All of their revenue comes from selling advertising. And for them to get people to stay on the platform longer, to get them to watch more ads, all these things, that means that they need to be really engaged. And the best way to do that is through video. Now, people might argue that you could do it with a graphic ad, you could do it with a carousel, you could do, you could get good engagement with all these other things, and you absolutely can. But my point is that with watch time, if I could get you to watch my 5-minute video or this YouTube video that is going on 8 minutes here, if I could get you to watch to the end, that's going to be a really strong signal for the algorithm to know exactly who else to show my content to. And that goes for organic or paid ads. And when you do it that way, it knows exactly who to show it to. It'll go out there and show it and test it in front of different audiences for you. And you're going to start naturally drawing in the ideal people that you want, right? If you're solving a micro problem about taxes in the video, and at the end of the video, somebody can actually implement that right then and there. You're being fully helpful in the video. And I can actually take these instructions and run with it and make a small change and see an improvement for myself. That's going to be a viewer, subscriber, customer that is so much more qualified to interact with you and potentially interact with your business. And it has a ripple effect and a positive compounding effect, because these people make the best customers. You have a very low return rate. You don't need as many people in the door. That's why you don't need to go viral. You just need a couple people to perk up, interested in what you have to offer, because they know going into it with these 3 to 5 minute videos, they know what you have to say. They know that they can trust you. They know that you can get the result for them. And something to keep in mind, this was something I learned in marketing in general, is that people buy outcomes. They don't buy the product. They don't care what the product is, but if it solves the problem right now, immediately, if it removes pain from my life, then you've got the sale. So not everybody's trying to sell something, but it's important. So how do I actually do this? How do I implement this? Well, 3 to 5 minute videos. I like to do 3 of these to start, and I would really encourage you to try this for yourself. Just be creative. Set up a decent hook. Talk about 3 things. I might include, actually, I'll include a link to a script structure that you can use because I have one already. I can give you this, and you can actually try to come up with something for yourself. You could even give it to ChatGPT and tell it about your podcast and get a little help from it, and it'll make the script for you following my template. And I would encourage you to try that just to see what you get out of it, because I think you will be surprised by the quality person that you'll start to attract. So let's say I'm running paid ads, organic content. I'm doing these power contents, right? How is it that, and why do I want to get in front of these people repeatedly? So Google did a study, and Google's study is really insightful, okay? Google did a study that showed that the average consumer watches about 7 hours of content, 11 touch points, and that could be different ads, different pieces of content, whatever, 4 different platforms, okay? And that could be YouTube, LinkedIn, Reddit, Facebook. Doesn't matter, okay? But the average consumer, before they buy something, needs to consume about 7 hours worth of content. I want you to think about that. If you're trying to, especially if you're running a business with your podcast, think about that, because if I showed you something and I said, I want you to buy this thing from me, this microphone from me, okay, this is a microphone set. I want you to buy it right now. You would probably, if you don't need a microphone, you'd probably say, no, I don't need it right now. I don't want it. And if it's something completely unrelatable, you'll probably be repelled by it. You'll be like, no, I hate that commercial. But if I started making content around this, showing you why it's so great, it's portable. You can take it anywhere. The battery lasts forever. I'm using the microphone right now on my chest. It's fantastic. Quality's good. I can record locally on it, right? So if I made different pieces of content around it, hey, this was really worth the money. I got this 3 years ago. It's still running strong. It's durable. Whatever. If I put 7 hours of content in front of you about why this microphone is great, and you happen to need a microphone, well, there's a really good chance that you will actually check this out. Maybe you don't buy it, but there's a good chance that you'll start looking at it and checking it out. And the same goes for anything. This is why lawyers advertise on the sides of like buses and stuff. In your town, I live in New York. So New York, we've got like Morgan and Morgan, and their ads are all over the buses. And the phone number is something super easy. It's like all fours or something, right? They always make it so easy. They know that you don't need an injury lawyer right now, but God forbid you do need one. Well, then who are you going to call? You're going to call them. It's the same idea, but with a podcast, and if you're running a product with it, or you want to run a product with it, it's the same idea, right? If you run tax services, you're going to make helpful content about the tax services, how you save money, how your customer saved 20% off their tax bill, how they actually got a refund from the government when they thought that they were going to owe taxes, right? All this stuff, you prove it through the content, through this power content, and you warm people up to you. And the other thing with this is more of an ad thing, but if you looked at the pool of people, I'm just going to change the colors here. If you look at the pool of people on the platform, right? So let's just say that this red circle is the daily user of whatever platform. What happens is, what most people do when they run ads is they run a sales campaign of some kind. And what sucks about that is you're bidding on the most expensive part of the auction, this little sliver here. This is where the advertisers tend to live. This is where the big dogs tend to live too, right? All the big brands, DJI, Apple, Nike, if you're into fashion, all those brands, they all sit in this little sliver of the sales campaigns, right? And this is really important to understand because 2 to 3% of these people on a daily basis are ready to buy something right now. But that means that 97 to 98%, this was a study that was done, are not ready to buy right now. That doesn't mean, though, that they're not your ideal subscriber or follower or listener or whatever. It means that maybe they're not yet interested in what you have to say because they don't yet know you. They don't know what you offer. They don't know what good information they'll get out of your podcast. And if you can understand this, advertising becomes really inexpensive because you can actually bid on this teeny pool of, this huge pool of people, but it's a small cost because we're not trying to hard sell people stuff. We're trying to get our 7 hours of content, 11 touch points, 4 different platforms, and we're doing it in this giant pool of undesirable people. So we're able to advertise really cheaply, or if you want to do it with organic content, you could just do it with organic posts, like I'm saying. But if you're doing paid ads, this is a really good way to do it because you get in front of people multiple times. You get to those 7 hours really quickly if you're able to create this power content in the way I'm showing you. And it will nudge people along the way. And that is kind of the next piece of this puzzle that I want to explain really quick, and then we'll get out of here. But when I run ads, there's something called retargeting, which basically means that I can show back up for people as many times as I want to. And how retargeting works is the algorithm knows what you've consumed, what you've watched, what you've hearted. And I can go in and I could say, anybody that watched these videos for 25% of the watch time, I want you to put those people onto a list for me. And it will literally do that. Now, I call it the invisible list because you can't actually see the names. You don't know who these people are, but you know that they're there. You know that there's at least 1,000 people plus on that list. And it literally shows you the count. So I could see I have 5,000 people on my invisible list. But what we do with this is with a 25% view, that averages on a 5-minute video, let's say it's about a minute of watch time. A minute of watch time on a platform like Instagram, where people are just doom scrolling and running right through it, that is a super strong signal for the algorithm to know that people are really interested in what I have to say. So I keep going back to this podcast about taxes because I think it's a great example. But if I get a minute of watch time on one of these platforms about taxes, about my podcast and how it helps people, it's a really good, strong signal for it. And it has a compounding positive effect. So how does that work? Well, it actually has the effect of, first of all, it knows exactly who to go out there to find. It lowers the cost because it doesn't have to test as much. It knows who these people are. And it gets you in front of these people multiple times. So with a 25% view, what happens is I'll post different pieces of content, and I call it the conveyor belt because the conveyor belt literally moves people along this line, right? So we're trying to get to 7 hours of watch time here. And let's say this is the beginning of the conveyor belt, right? So we've got 0 minutes. So sad. Nobody's watching our stuff, right? You just keep producing content. You keep getting in front of people. You do this organically. You do it with the retargeting, 25% views. That's a minute of watch time. And we just keep popping up over and over and over and over again. And guess what? Whatever your call to action is, whatever it is that you're trying to get with your goal, if you create the content around that, it will nudge people in that direction. So if you're trying to get followers, if you're trying to get subscribers, if those metrics matter to you, that's what you can optimize for. You can literally get people over to a YouTube video, over to your LinkedIn profile, whatever. If you have a course and you want people to sign up for it, you can eventually start nudging people to take an action. Go to your website, check it out, or DM you. I like to do something, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent here, but I like to do a DM conversation with people, and I close deals in the DMs. That way I just keep everything on the platform, and I don't end up with any black holes in my funnel. This is such a good way to promote a podcast, either organically or with paid traffic. And if you guys found this useful, find it helpful, that's awesome. I have a link in the description that's literally going to give you the template. It's a Google Drive link. You could just grab it. And I'm going to include my Instagram handle. And the reason that I'm giving you that is because I post content like this all the time. And if you're trying to grow yourself, if you're trying to grow your business, if you have an actual business that's not the podcast, whatever it is, check out that content, because I try to give you guys the most helpful, true, honest, whatever it is that I'm learning, I'm trying to share that with you guys. And I just want to say thank you for watching, and take care.